There's something they haven't said out loud yet. Not because it's dramatic, not because it's forbidden, but because it feels fragile. When you're younger and you start imagining a future with someone who feels older, steadier, more grounded, you don't always speak it immediately. You hold it close first. You test it quietly in your own mind. You picture it in small pieces before you dare to share it fully. And that's exactly what they've been doing. They've been thinking about you in the future tense. Not casually, not in a passing what-if way, in a deliberate way. They've been picturing ordinary days, not just exciting moments. They imagine waking up earlier than you, making coffee, moving quietly around a shared space. They imagine conversations about work, about life goals, about things that feel practical and grown. They imagine sitting across from you while you explain something with that calm confidence you carry. And instead of feeling intimidated, they feel inspired. That's the part they haven't told you. Your maturity doesn't scare them, it challenges them. There's something about the way you move through life, steady, measured, thoughtful, that makes them want to rise. They don't see you as distant. They see you as someone they could build toward. And that's where their secret plan begins. They've been observing you carefully. The way you respond to stress. The way you handle conflict without turning cold. The way you don't chase attention. The way you value clarity. All of that tells them something important. If they want a real future with you, they have to step up intentionally. They know they can't approach you casually forever. You're not someone who thrives in half energy. You're not someone who tolerates confusion long term. You match effort. And that awareness has shaped their plan. It's not dramatic, it's not reckless, it's slow. They've started working on themselves quietly. You may not notice it at first, but they've been becoming more disciplined, more focused, more intentional about their time and goals. Not because they're trying to impress you, but because when they imagine standing beside you long term, they want to feel equal. Not financially equal necessarily, not in status, but in emotional maturity and stability. They don't want to feel like the younger one in a way that creates imbalance. They want to grow into someone you can rely on. They've been thinking about where they want to be in a year, 2 years, 5 years, and when they picture that timeline, you are present. Not as a fantasy, as a possibility. They imagine introducing you to people who matter to them. They imagine defending you in rooms you're not in. They imagine saying your name in conversations about who I see myself with. And that's new for them, because before you, they didn't think that far ahead. You changed the timeline in their mind. There's also something else they haven't told you. They admire you deeply. Not just attraction, not just chemistry, respect. They respect how you don't overshare to get attention. They respect how you don't crumble when things feel uncertain. They respect your boundaries. They respect that you don't beg for reassurance. You expect it naturally. And respect is the foundation of their plan. They know if they want something real with you, they can't play games. They can't rely on charm alone. They can't float between seriousness and casual energy. They have to choose. So their secret plan isn't flashy, it's preparation. They're building stability in their own life first, handling responsibilities more seriously, getting clearer about career direction, saving more intentionally, cutting distractions that don't align with long-term growth. Because when they step forward clearly, they don't want it to be empty words. They want it to feel solid. They've imagined the moment they tell you how serious they are. It's not a dramatic confession. It's calm. I've been thinking about us long term. They picture your reaction. Maybe surprised, maybe steady, maybe cautious. But they're willing to face that. Because they don't want to look back years from now wondering what would have happened if they had been braver. Being younger doesn't mean being unserious. In their case, it means being intentional early. They've realized something about you. You don't respond to pressure. You respond to consistency. You don't need someone to overwhelm you with promises. You need someone who shows up reliably. So that's what they're practicing. Showing up, replying thoughtfully, listening carefully, remembering details, matching your steadiness instead of chasing intensity. And here's the part that might surprise you most. They're not intimidated by the idea of building a life with someone who feels more experienced. They're motivated by it. They want to grow into that level. They want to meet you there. They've even imagined challenges, disagreements, differences in perspective, moments where your maturity exposes their inexperience. And instead of backing away, they imagine leaning in, learning, adapting. That's part of the secret plan too, growth. They don't want to stay younger emotionally. They want to rise. Because when they picture you choosing someone for the long term, they know you'll choose someone steady. And they want that to be them. They haven't said all of this because it feels vulnerable. It feels like revealing a future before it's guaranteed, and that's scary. But the plan is real, quiet, intentional, building in the background. They're not rushing you. They're not forcing timelines. They're preparing themselves. Because when the moment feels right, they don't want to approach you halfway. They want to approach you fully, not with fantasy, with foundation. And that foundation is being built right now, even if you can't see every brick yet. They haven't told you how often they think about timing, not in a rushed, impatient way, in a strategic one. They understand that building something real with you isn't about confessing feelings quickly. It's about aligning stages of life. They know you're not just looking for chemistry. You're looking for stability, emotional depth, consistency, long-term direction. And because they see that clearly, they've started quietly evaluating themselves. Where am I in my life right now? Am I building something solid? Would I feel confident standing next to them long-term? Am I ready to lead sometimes, not just follow? These aren't light questions, and they're not asking them for show. They're asking them because when they imagine telling you they see a future, they want to mean it with substance. Being younger in the connection has made them hyper-aware of perception. They know you might sometimes question whether they fully understand what long-term commitment requires. They know you might wonder if they're idealizing the idea of us rather than preparing for the reality. That's why their plan is practical. They've started thinking in terms of habits, financial habits, communication habits, emotional regulation, time management. They've begun tightening areas of their life that once felt loose, not because you demanded it, but because imagining a shared life exposed the gaps they don't want to carry forward. They don't want you to feel like you're parenting them. They don't want you to feel like you're guiding them constantly. They want partnership. And partnership requires preparedness. There's also something deeper driving them. Admiration mixed with aspiration. They admire the way you move through decisions without panic, the way you can step back instead of overreacting, the way you don't chase validation, and instead of feeling insecure about that difference, they feel motivated by it. You don't make them feel small. You make them want to grow. That's rare. Most people either intimidate or compete. You inspire. And inspiration fuels their plan more than emotion does. They've even imagined conversations about the future. Not romantic fantasy conversations, real ones. Where do we live? What does balance look like? How do we handle disagreement? How do we support each other's careers? What do we value in daily life? They don't want a relationship built only on intensity. They want one built on alignment. And alignment requires groundwork. They've started reducing distractions in their life, being more selective about who they invest time in, pulling back from situations that don't reflect the direction they see themselves going. It's subtle. You might not notice. But internally, there's restructuring happening. Because when they step forward and tell you they're serious, they don't want it to be impulsive. They want it to feel earned. They also know something about you. You don't respond well to vague ambition. You respect action. If someone tells you they see a future, you'll look for consistency to match it. So their secret plan includes patience. They're not rushing to confess grand visions. They're building evidence first, showing up consistently, becoming more direct, reducing mixed signals. letting their seriousness reveal itself gradually. They've also considered the risks. What if you don't see them the same way? What if the age difference feels heavier to you than it does to them? What if you've already decided you want someone in a similar life stage? Those thoughts cross their mind. But instead of retreating, they use those doubts as fuel. If they're going to step forward, they want to remove as many reasons for doubt as possible. That means maturity in action, clarity in communication, stability in behavior. They've been observing what matters to you, the way you talk about responsibility, the way you respond to inconsistency, the way you prioritize peace over chaos. All of that becomes data for them, not to manipulate, but to align. Because they don't want to impress you temporarily, they want to match you long term. There's also a quiet confidence growing in them. At first, they wondered if they were too young in your eyes, if you saw them as less established, if you questioned their seriousness. But the more they reflected, the more they realized something important. Age doesn't determine depth, behavior does. And they're choosing behavior. They're choosing to communicate more clearly, choosing to initiate plans, choosing to take responsibility when they misstep, choosing to speak with intention instead of hiding behind humor or deflection. You may have noticed subtle changes already. More consistency, less vagueness, more thoughtful responses, more future-oriented conversations. That's not accidental. That's preparation. They've also imagined what it would feel like if you accepted their seriousness fully. If you looked at them one day and said, "I see the growth." That thought fuels them more than excitement ever could. Because being chosen by you would feel like being recognized, not just liked, not just desired, recognized. And that recognition matters deeply to them. They don't want to rush you into belief. They want to earn it. That's the core of their plan. Earn your trust, earn your confidence, earn your long-term vision. They're aware that you don't tolerate inconsistency forever. You'll give grace, but you won't give endless chances. That awareness creates urgency, not panic, but focus. They're focused. Focused on becoming someone you don't have to question. Focused on reducing emotional gray areas. Focused on aligning their life trajectory with what they claim to want. And what they want is not just the idea of you. They want the real version. The version who values depth. The version who expects maturity. The version who won't settle for charm without structure. Their secret plan isn't loud. It's layered. It's slow building. It's grounded in growth instead of fantasy. They're not trying to skip ahead to commitment without earning stability first. They're trying to rise to meet you. And when they finally step forward and say, "I see a future with you," they want it to feel obvious, not surprising. Because the preparation will have already been visible. And that's what makes their plan powerful. It's not about convincing you. It's about becoming someone you can confidently choose. What they haven't told you yet is that the more they build quietly, the more serious this becomes in their own mind. At first, the idea of a future with you felt like a hopeful possibility, something warm, something exciting. Now it feels structured, intentional, almost architectural. They're not just imagining moments anymore, they're imagining systems. How would we communicate when things get hard? How do we protect each other's peace? How do we grow without outgrowing each other? These aren't light questions, and they're not questions someone asks when they're casually interested. Being the younger one in the connection has made them hyper-aware of proving depth through action rather than words. They don't want you to feel like you're taking a risk on potential. They want you to feel like you're choosing stability. So they've been watching themselves closely. How do I react under stress? Do I shut down or speak up? Do I avoid hard conversations or lean into them? Am I disciplined with my time? Am I reliable? They know you observe patterns. You don't fall for declarations. You fall for consistency. And consistency is what they're practicing. They've started planning their future financially in ways they didn't before, budgeting more intentionally, thinking long-term about career steps instead of short-term satisfaction, considering where they want to live, not just next year, but years from now. And every time they map it out in their head, there's an invisible space where you fit, not because they're forcing you into the image, because it feels natural. They've also confronted their insecurities about the age difference head-on. They've asked themselves honestly, am I idealizing someone older because it feels grounding? Or do I genuinely respect who they are? The answer keeps coming back the same. It's respect. They respect your emotional control, your patience, your refusal to chase chaos, your ability to sit in silence without panic. Those qualities don't intimidate them anymore. They motivate them. They want to rise to your level, not mimic it, not compete with it, rise to it. There's something powerful about wanting to be worthy of someone's peace, and they want to be worthy of yours. They've even thought about how they would handle disagreement with you long term. They know you won't tolerate yelling or manipulation. You won't stay where there's instability. That means they have to build emotional regulation now, not later. So they're practicing it, catching themselves before reacting impulsively, communicating discomfort instead of withdrawing, listening more carefully when you speak instead of preparing their defense. These changes aren't dramatic, but they're foundational. Their secret plan isn't a grand gesture, it's self-development. Because when they finally tell you they see a future, they want that future to feel sustainable. They've also imagined the moment you realize they're serious, not because of a speech, because of repetition, because of steady effort, because of how consistently they show up over time. They don't want to surprise you with intensity, they want to reassure you with reliability. And here's something they've admitted only to themselves. They're willing to wait, not passively, productively. They know that building something meaningful with someone at a slightly different life stage requires patience. They're not in a rush to force a timeline. They're in a rush to become prepared. They've asked themselves, if she needed reassurance right now, could I give it confidently? If she asked about long-term plans, would I hesitate? They're working toward the day the answer is a calm, grounded no. No hesitation, no uncertainty, no half measures. They also recognize that you won't compromise your standards for them, and strangely, that makes them feel secure. You choosing them someday would mean something real. It wouldn't be because you lowered the bar, it would be because they reached it. That thought fuels them more than romance ever could. They've started picturing introducing you to their family one day, not as a fleeting connection, but as someone important. They imagine conversations about future goals where your perspectives intertwine instead of clash. They picture traveling together, not just for excitement, but for shared experience. Handling logistics, making decisions, navigating differences. They want to see how real life feels with you, and they're preparing themselves for it quietly. They're not announcing this because they know words can feel premature. Instead, they're building. Skill by skill, habit by habit, choice by choice. They've even reduced social distractions that don't align with their direction. Less emotional chaos, fewer surface-level interactions, more focus. Because clarity requires space. And you represent clarity. There's also an emotional layer to their plan that runs deeper than logistics. They're preparing to be vulnerable with you. That might sound simple. It's not. They've guarded parts of themselves in the past, used humor to deflect seriousness, avoided heavy conversations until necessary. With you, they know that won't work long term. You value emotional honesty, so they're practicing honesty now. Even when it feels exposing, they want you to know them fully eventually. Not the curated version, the real one. And that level of emotional readiness doesn't happen overnight. It's being built in silence. They understand something crucial about you. If they approach you halfway, you'll meet them halfway. But if they approach you fully, you'll respond fully. They don't want half. They want full. Not because it sounds romantic, because it feels aligned. Their secret plan isn't flashy, it's layered, and it's persistent. Every day they choose growth over comfort. They're reinforcing it. Every time they show up consistently instead of sporadically, they're reinforcing it. Every time they respond with maturity instead of impulse, they're reinforcing it. And one day, when they finally say, "I see a future with you," it won't feel like a surprise. It will feel like a natural next step. Because the preparation will have already told the story. They're not chasing a fantasy. They're constructing a foundation, brick by brick, quietly, for you. By the time they reached this stage in their thoughts, it stopped feeling like a quiet crush mixed with admiration. It started feeling like responsibility, not the heavy, pressured kind, the intentional kind, the kind where you look at someone and think, if I step into this, I need to do it right. That's where their mindset is now. They don't see you as a temporary chapter. They don't see you as someone exciting but uncertain. They see you as someone who requires alignment, and alignment takes preparation. They've begun measuring themselves against the life they imagine with you, not comparing in insecurity, evaluating in growth. If we built something real, could I hold steady during conflict? If life became stressful, could I remain grounded instead of reactive? If they leaned on me emotionally, would I be strong enough to carry weight without collapsing? These questions matter to them more than romantic fantasy, because they know you're not drawn to intensity alone. You're drawn to stability. They've noticed how you don't panic easily, how you can step back and assess before speaking, how you don't let emotions control your direction. And instead of feeling small next to that, they've chosen to rise toward it. They've been practicing emotional restraint, not suppression, restraint. Learning to pause before responding. Learning to communicate discomfort instead of avoiding it. Learning to clarify intentions rather than letting ambiguity linger. That's part of the secret plan. They're becoming someone who can meet you without imbalance. There's also something deeply humbling about wanting a future with someone slightly ahead in life experience. It forces self-awareness. It forces discipline. It forces growth. And they're embracing that. They don't want you to feel like you're choosing potential. They want you to feel like you're choosing preparedness. They've imagined the day they speak clearly about long-term intentions. They picture saying it calmly, not dramatically. Something like, "I've been building my life in a way that aligns with us." And they imagine watching your face carefully, not for validation, but for reassurance that you feel safe hearing it. Safety matters to them now. Not excitement, not adrenaline. Safety, because safety is what builds longevity. They've also recognized that your standards aren't about control, they're about peace. You won't stay in something that disrupts your stability. You won't tolerate emotional chaos long term. You won't accept inconsistency disguised as charm. And instead of trying to lower your standards in their mind, they've raised themselves toward them. That shift is powerful. They've been thinking about practical details too. Where they want to live in a few years, what kind of lifestyle they want to maintain, how they want to balance ambition with presence. They're not fantasizing about grand gestures. They're thinking about daily rhythms, morning routines, shared responsibilities, financial planning, weekend conversations, conflict resolution patterns, because when they imagine you, they don't imagine fireworks. They imagine foundation, and foundation requires structure. They've also confronted an insecurity quietly. What if you see them as younger in a way that limits seriousness? What if you assume they'll grow out of this? What if you think they don't fully grasp what commitment requires? Those thoughts crossed their mind. But instead of shrinking from them, they decided to answer them through action. Consistency will answer that. Reliability will answer that. Maturity in small moments will answer that. They've realized something crucial. You observe more than you speak about. You notice patterns. You measure behavior over time. You don't rush to conclusions. You wait and watch. So they're giving you something worth observing. They're showing up on time, keeping promises, following through, initiating conversations about meaningful topics, avoiding surface-level distraction when something deeper needs attention. These shifts may feel subtle to you, but to them, they're intentional. They've even imagined introducing you into long-term plans publicly, not immediately, not recklessly, but confidently. They want to reach a place where saying your name alongside future goals feels natural. They don't want secrecy, they don't want hesitation, they don't want gray areas, they want alignment. And they understand alignment takes time. They're patient, but not passive. Every week that passes, they're evaluating growth, asking themselves if they're becoming more disciplined, more emotionally steady, more clear in communication. They don't want to wake up one day realizing they stayed comfortable while you moved forward. You inspire movement, and they don't take that lightly. They've also acknowledged something vulnerable. They don't want to lose you because of life stage differences. They don't want you to decide it's easier with someone already fully established. That thought fuels them quietly, not competitively, motivationally. They don't want to catch up to you. They want to stand beside you, equal in responsibility, equal in effort, equal in seriousness. That's the heart of the secret plan. They're building capacity, emotional capacity, financial capacity, relational capacity, because when the time comes to say, "I'm serious about you long term," they want you to feel it's grounded in reality, not youthful intensity, not temporary excitement, grounded commitment. They've imagined challenges too, moments where you might question their readiness, moments where you test consistency without announcing it, moments where life pressures both of you. Instead of fearing those, they're preparing for them. That's maturity growing quietly. They don't want to overwhelm you with declarations. They want to show you slowly that they're dependable, that they're capable, that they're aligned. And when they finally express their vision of a future with you, it won't be impulsive. It will be supported by months of evidence. You may not know all of this is happening. You may only see small shifts, more steadiness, more directness, more thoughtful planning, more grounded conversation. But underneath those shifts is intention, a plan, not to rush you, not to pressure you, to rise toward you, because in their mind, you're not just someone they're dating. You're someone they're building toward, and when they finally step forward openly about the future, they want you to feel safe, not surprised. That's why the preparation is quiet. That's why the growth is steady. That's why the plan is patient. They're not chasing fantasy. They're constructing foundation for a life where standing beside you feels natural, not intimidating. And they're closer to that readiness than you realize.